Welcome to Down the Crooked Path. I'm your host, Amanda Joy. Join me as we dive into eerie and spine-chilling stories that blur the lines between reality and the unknown. From cryptids and mysterious disappearances to true crime, UFO sightings, and paranormal activity. Venture into the unknown and uncover the secrets that lie down the crooked path. Beneath the vast, clear skies of British Columbia's rural heartland, the stars shine a bit brighter than most of us could ever imagine. Out here, far from the hum of city life, the universe feels closer, more profound. An endless sea of light and mystery stretching far beyond human comprehension. It's the kind of place where dreams feel limitless. For one man, those shimmering stars weren't just points of light. They were a calling. Grainger Taylor, a brilliant yet eccentric mechanic from the quiet forests of Vancouver Island, spent his life gazing up at the heavens, driven by an unshakable belief that there was something or someone waiting for him out there. Today, I follow the trail that Grainger Taylor left behind, a story of genius, wonder, and the unyielding desire to touch the stars. A story of loneliness, a disappearance, and a legacy of a man who may have just found what lies beyond. Born October 7th, 1948 in Duncan, British Columbia, Grainger was a mechanical prodigy. He was a bit of a social outcast and doesn't do very well in school. Grainger's biological father tragically passed away when Grainger was quite young. He drowned in an accident near the family's cabin at Horn Lake, a devastating event that left a significant mark on the family. After this loss, Grainger's mother remarried a widower named Jim Taylor, who became Grainger's stepfather. In terms of relationships, Grainger was described as shy and reserved but kind-hearted. As an adult, he was a 6'2", 240-pound man, but his gentle nature had earned him the nickname Gentle Ben. His quiet demeanor and eccentric interests made him a unique and memorable figure in his community. He formed close bonds with few friends who admired his brilliance and shared his interests, most of which were decades younger than him. One of his closest friends, Robert Keller, described their bond as inseparable, with the two spending countless hours together working on projects, exploring ideas, and sharing their fascination with the unknown. Keller often referred to Grainger as a mentor. Having been a dropout himself, Grainger kind of took Keller under his wing, and Keller marveled at his mechanical genius and his ability to bring seemingly impossible ideas to life. Despite dropping out of high school in the 8th grade, Grainger demonstrated an extraordinary aptitude for understanding and repairing machinery. By his mid-teens, he had already restored a one-cylinder car and overhauled a bulldozer, which he used to help neighbors with construction projects, and his talents only grew from there. He restored a World War II fighter plane, rebuilt a steam locomotive that he dragged through the dense forests of BC to work on by himself. Later, it was on display at the BC Forest Discovery Center, and he even constructed a life-size model of a UFO in his backyard. His work earned him a reputation as a mechanical genius, and he became a mentor to local kids, teaching them the ins and outs of machinery. Grainger's interest extended beyond mechanics. He was deeply fascinated by space, UFOs, and the possibility of extraterrestrial life. This passion became a defining aspect of his personality and later played a significant role in his mysterious disappearance. Grainger Taylor's fascination with UFOs and extraterrestrial beings began to intensify in the years leading up to his disappearance. While he had always been curious about the unknown, his interest in UFOs became a defining aspect of his life during the late 1970s. Many contribute the debut of Star Wars as a defining moment when this interest truly came to life for Grainger. Some people claim he went to the theaters to watch it at least 4 times, while others think it had something to do with a UFO sighting in Duncan on New Year's of 1969. Near the Cowichan District Hospital, a few nurses had reported seeing a saucer-shaped craft hovering just outside. The UFO was described as having a glass-like dome and glowing illumination from below, with an estimated diameter of 15 meters. Inside the craft, the nurses claimed to see two humanoid features, dressed in dark clothing. One of the figures reportedly turned to look at her, while the other operated a lever. The craft spun counterclockwise before silently ascending and disappearing into the night. And the nurses weren't the only ones to see this. It was reported by several others in town, including a few fishermen. But as to whether or not Grainger himself saw it is unclear, although it did take place just a few minutes away from his family's farm. And from then on, the town seemed to be abuzz with talk of UFO and aliens. His passion for mechanics and engineering played a significant role in fueling his UFO interests. Grainger constructed a life-size model of a UFO in his backyard, using spare parts mostly from dumpster diving with the local kids, and his remarkable ingenuity. The structure was not just a display of his mechanical skills, but also a reflection of his deep belief in the existence of extraterrestrial beings. He spent hours inside the model, contemplating the mysteries of the universe and imagining interstellar travel. Inside, he had it furnished with a couch and a bed, and he even had included a wood-burning stove. He wanted to figure out how to actually make it take off, but was having trouble with the aerodynamics of such a feat. So instead, it became a workshop where Grainger pored over books on space and extraterrestrial life forms. It is inside his homemade spacecraft that he claims to have been contacted by extraterrestrial beings through telepathic communications. According to his accounts, he received messages from these beings who shared insights about their world and expressed a desire to exchange knowledge with him via voices in his head. Grainger confided in close friends that these aliens had begun to teach him how advanced space technology functioned. Through what he described as vivid telepathic exchanges, they shared insights on propulsion systems, interstellar navigation, and the secrets of space travel. He is told by the aliens that his own craft won't fly because of certain magnetisms. This isn't the only time that the alien voices in his head would talk to him. This supposedly goes on for months, and these communications gave Grainger a sense of purpose and a mission: to leave Earth with these beings and explore the cosmos. He tells his friends that these beings have invited him to go on a journey with them through the solar system. He doesn't know when it will happen and is waiting for the aliens to contact him with more details. A few months go by, and Grainger's belief in his imminent extraterrestrial journey deepens, and sure enough, the aliens contact him again. He reveals to Keller about the details the aliens had supposedly revealed to him. In their conversations, Grainger spoke with excitement and certainty, describing the aliens' promises and their plans for his departure. He explains that these beings had assured him that they would come for him when the time was right, and that their arrival would likely coincide with a storm to help mask their presence, the loud thunder to cover the sound of their machines, and the clouds to conceal the craft. Grainger believed that these entities were benevolent and had selected him for this incredible opportunity because of his open mind and mechanical genius. He described the voyage as a 42-month expedition through the solar system, during which he would learn about the advanced technologies and the wonders of the universe. Despite the surreal nature of these claims, Grainger spoke with calm conviction. He expressed no fear about leaving Earth or the loved ones he would temporarily leave behind. Instead, he saw the trip as a fulfillment of a lifelong dream and a chance to gain knowledge far beyond human understanding. Keller, being just a young boy himself at the time, was excited for Grainger and wanted to come along with him, but Grainger said he couldn't. He explained that while time would pass normally on Earth, 42 months is different in space. He wouldn't be back for about 150 years Earth time, and he assures Keller that when he does return, he will visit him, which today Keller has spoken in interviews that he now understands that Grainger meant he would probably visit Keller's grave. And it isn't just his friends that he confides in about this trip. He gushes to his mom about his impending voyage, explaining to her that as time for his trip draws closer, his connection with the aliens is getting stronger. For him, this is further proof that he will be leaving with the aliens. In June of 1980, he creates a will, only instead he makes significant changes that reflect his unique situation. Specifically, he replaces words like death and funeral with departure, as if to emphasize that he doesn't see his journey as an ending, but rather a new beginning. In the days before his disappearance, Grainger Taylor shares his heartfelt farewell with his stepfather. On November 28, 1980, Grainger expresses his gratitude to Jim for all of the support and guidance he has given him throughout his life. It was an emotional goodbye, with Grainger seemingly at peace and resolved about what laid ahead. His mother was unfortunately out of town on vacation during this time, and they didn't get a chance to speak before he leaves. The very next night, November 29, 1980, a powerful storm struck the area around Duncan, BC. Thunder roared, and a torrential rain swept through the region in a way that seemed almost otherworldly in its intensity. This storm coincided with the timeline Grainger had shared about his alien communications, leading many to speculate that it marked the moment of his departure. Before he left, Grainger wrote a note to his parents, leaving behind his final words. The note read, "Dear Mother and Father, I had gone to walk aboard an alien spaceship. As recurring dreams have assured, a 42-month interstellar voyage to explore the vast universe, then return. I am leaving behind all my possessions to you, as I will no longer require the use of anything. Please use the instructions in my will as a guide to help. Love, Grainger." Accompanying this note is a hand-drawn map that marked a route leading to an area on Waterloo Mountain, a heavily wooded mountain near his family home. This location held significance to Grainger as he often explored this region and felt connected to it. Everything else he leaves behind, including around $10,000 in cash. He puts on a sweater and drives off into the downpouring in his Datsun pickup that he had painted custom Pepto-Bismol pink with Keller, and was well known around town for its distinctive color, and he is never heard from or seen again. Earlier that evening, just before the storm, Grainger had visited a local diner. There, he ordered a simple meal as if it were just any other evening. The staff and patrons, many whom knew him, casually noticed nothing out of the ordinary. Grainger tells them that tonight is the night he leaves for his intergalactic journey. But those at the diner don't think much about this. After all, Grainger has been talking about this trip for months, so for them, it's nothing odd. After his dinner, he makes a final visit to Robert Keller to say goodbye before he leaves. Keller again wants to leave with him, and Grainger explains that there is more for Keller to do on Earth, and this is something Grainger needs to do on his own, and he promises to return. In the days and weeks following Grainger Taylor's disappearance, his family and friends launched an intensive search effort to uncover any clues about his whereabouts. His family even enlisted the help of the local RCMP. The note he left behind, along with the hand-drawn map, led searchers to focus on the Waterloo Mountain area. Search parties combed the area, hoping to find any sign of Grainger or his distinctive pink Datsun truck. Local authorities joined the search, utilizing helicopters and ground teams to cover the vast wooded mountain. The community rallied together, and volunteers assisted in the effort. Flyers were distributed, and there were bulletins put out on his passport and license. His parent had taken out ads in the newspapers, hoping for any information, and Grainger's story began to gain attention beyond the small town of Duncan, sparking curiosity and concern. However, the search yielded no immediate results. Despite a lack of answers following his disappearance, hope persisted within the small community of Duncan. Grainger's farewell note had mentioned a 42-month voyage, and this gave some cautious optimism amongst his family and friends, who were having this sort of silent countdown. The exception to this was Keller, whom Grainger had already explained the movement of time and space. Even Einstein's theory of relativity explains that the faster you travel, the slower time moves. On the 42-month anniversary of his disappearance, the town held a welcome home gathering to mark the occasion. Friends, family, and community members came together, hopeful that Grainger might fulfill the timeline outlined in his enigmatic letter. This event was not just about waiting for Grainger, but a poignant moment to celebrate his memory, his brilliance, and the indelible mark he left on their lives. But of course, Grainger didn't return. Years would go by without any answers. Then, 6 years later, a possible explanation is discovered: a blast site. In 1986, a group of forestry workers stumble upon what appeared to be a blast site near Mount Provost, just about an 18-minute drive from Grainger's home. They had been conducting routine maintenance and working to clear the dense area when they came across scattered debris. At first, this fragment seemed random and unconnected, but soon the workers recognized parts that resembled vehicle components, including a tire that had been lodged way up in a tree. Alarmed by the oddity of this site and the apparent signs of a powerful explosion, the forestry workers reported their findings to the authorities. Investigators arrived shortly thereafter to examine the area, uncovering magnetic fragments, twisted remains of what they believed was Grainger's truck. The location was heavily wooded, secluded, and difficult to access, fitting the profile of an area Grainger might have chosen for an experiment or private activity. The scene itself bore stark reminders of destruction: charred earth, scattered debris, and pieces of twisted metal. Investigators also noted tools and parts nearby, suggesting Grainger had brought materials for some kind of project. The entire site gave the impression of an explosion powerful enough to obliterate much of what was there. But aside from fragments of vehicle, they were also able to find remains of 2 human bones, one of which was an arm that had been broken, further proving how powerful this blast had been. There was the presence of tools and components associated with explosive that Grainger's family and friends confirmed he often worked with. Based on evidence gathered at this site, police concluded that this was where Grainger had likely died. They claimed the vehicle was his and was believed the bones belonged to Grainger as well. The running theory was that either on purpose or by accident, Grainger had set off an explosion that claimed his life. There were those who theorized that Grainger was working on some sort of project or experiment, perhaps something like a device for his interstellar voyage, and had made a tragic miscalculation. Others suggested that the explosion might have been intentional, a way of symbolically departing from this world in line with his unconventional ideas. And then there are those who believe that his intentions all along were suicide, and that his story about alien communication and travel to outer space was just a way to throw people off of his plan. Regardless of the exact purpose, the explosive material remains a matter of speculation. Robert Keller disagrees with this, though. Firstly, the police claim that they had positively identified the truck as belonging to Grainger. The problem is that the reports listed the truck as being blue, but Grainger's truck was pink. Keller himself helped him paint it. When Grainger visited Keller the night before he disappeared, the truck was still pink, and there was no way that Grainger would have had time to paint it during a rainstorm before he vanished. As for the bones, this was a time when DNA testing was new, and the bones were never positively tested to prove that they were in fact Grainger's. Sadly, or maybe conveniently, we are unable to test them today as they have mysteriously gone missing. And Mount Provost is nowhere near Waterloo Mountain, where Grainger's map had pointed out. In fact, Keller doesn't believe that Grainger was responsible for the explosion at all. While dynamite can be unstable, especially when wet, Keller argues that Grainger would have known this. After all, this was a man who rebuilt a World War II plane by himself. And he argues that Grainger would have only carried a small amount of dynamite in his truck, nowhere near enough to cause an explosion the size of this blast site. He did have a pile of it at his house, and after this discovery, Keller did go back to Grainger's home to make sure that the dynamite was still there, and sure enough, Grainger hadn't taken any of it with him before he left on that fatal evening. All of it was accounted for. Now, typically when someone does vanish with the intent to self-harm, they do leave behind their possessions and money, which is what Grainger did. But according to Keller and Grainger's family, Grainger wasn't suicidal, nor did he show any signs of depression. They also don't think he wanted to run away and start a new life somewhere else, as constantly he was reassuring family and friends that he would return, and he even had a time duration for this trip. But then again, he was known as the town outcast and struggled to fit in with people his own age, so who really knows for sure? One of Grainger's sisters have offered an interesting aspect to this story. Apparently, about a year before his disappearance, Grainger was experimenting with LSD. He would sit in his spacecraft clubhouse and drop hits of acid several times a day. So this could explain why he believed he was talking to aliens. Maybe it was a drug-induced hallucination, but this still doesn't explain where he went or what happened to him. The mystery deepens with every unanswered question, leaving us to wonder, did Grainger Taylor truly leave this world? Or is there more to his story than we can ever know? As the rain poured down that fateful night, he vanished into a world of possibilities, some grounded in reality and others in the realm of imagination. Decades later, his disappearance continues to captivate and confound, a poignant reminder of how the human spirit seeks to transcend the ordinary. Grainger Taylor walked a line between genius and mystery, leaving behind a legacy that is as thought-provoking as it is heartbreaking. Perhaps Grainger found what he was searching for, soaring above the stars to a place that we can't yet comprehend. And maybe, just maybe, he is looking down on us from that extraordinary place, watching over those he loved, and inspiring us to dream of worlds yet to be discovered. Thanks for joining me on this eerie journey through Canada's darker corners. If you love this episode of Canadian Creepies, be sure to follow Valerie on Instagram and TikTok at Canadian Creepies. She's the one behind the socials, sharing behind-the-scenes stories, creepy photos, and sneak peeks of upcoming episodes. And if you're craving even more haunted history and twisted folklore, be sure to check out my other podcast, Down the Crooked Path. You can follow the show on Instagram and TikTok for even more haunted history, mythical madness, and spine-tingling storytelling. Come say hi, share your own creepy encounters, and help us keep the weird alive. Until next time, stay curious and stay creepy.